to Sayyid Hassan for devoting his time and his effort into delivering these presentations for us, which of course I'm sure everyone, just like myself, have thankfully been able to benefit a great deal from. So I'll hand over to Sayyid in a bit. Just again to just reiterate in terms of the format of the discussion, Sayyid will inshallah be delivering a presentation. However, if you do wish to ask a question, please do use the Q&A function. So I think rather than the chat, if you can please use the Q&A function specifically, that would be good. Then all the questions are in one place and it's a bit easier for myself and for Sayyid as well, if he wishes to see all the questions. And please do, as I said, get involved, ask your questions during and also after, where we'll open the floor a little bit more for Q&A, and also put forward your comments and your arguments as well, or anything you'd like to add in regards to the lecture. So Sayyid, if I may, just before I hand over to you, I was just gonna I had a question from yesterday that I didn't get an opportunity to ask based on what you mentioned yesterday. So inshallah, if you could start with that, I think that would be, I would really appreciate that. So my question is that yesterday you mentioned that in relation to, I believe it was like the non-Shia and their understanding of the status of the AhlulBayt is that they don't know, that they're unaware of the high status of the AhlulBayt, that, for example, the AhlulBayt were the only people to claim this status as being the inheritors after the Prophet and the inheritors of the religion, of this divine knowledge, the Quran, etc. Now, would you say, and I don't want to come across in like a patronizing way or anything like that, but I'm genuinely curious, do you think that this is kind of a systemic issue within other schools in Islam, and that it's the fault of the scholars, those that do have this knowledge? Is it the fault of the scholars for not educating the people enough? Do they perhaps have some kind of vendetta or hidden agenda? And also, can we, again, without sounding patronizing, in this day and age with social media, YouTube, the accessibility of Islamic centers and courses and things like that, can we absolve non-Shias of kind of just simply not knowing? I mean, don't they sort of, couldn't you say that they also have a responsibility to find out more about, for example, the AhlulBayt and the truth in terms of Islamic history, in terms of the designation of Imam Ali as the Prophet's successor and what happened after that, Saqifa, etc. Do they have a responsibility? Is it more down to the scholars? Is it both? Is it neither? If you could please shed some light on this, that would be much appreciated. And then, Bismillah, by all means, then you can proceed with your presentation. Jazakallah, thank you.
Hassan, thank you very much, Brother Kazim, for the introduction. Inshallah, the camera is facing the right direction.
It's perfect.
And the slides are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will start with the question. Inshallah, we'll start the final session of the series. So regarding the question of Muslims who do not follow AhlulBayt alayhim salam. Yesterday I did mention that our scholars are of the opinion that you can't know for sure that the person in front of you has seen the evidence or not. So you can only assume that they haven't seen enough of the evidence. This doesn't only apply to Muslims who do not adhere to the school of AhlulBayt. This applies to the whole of mankind and the truth, al-haq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the religion of Islam, the school of AhlulBayt. These are all different levels of the truth. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam describes the shubha, misconception about the truth, as literally as its name. Shabaha, it means looks like, right? So the shubha, the misinterpretation, the misconception about the truth, always looks like the truth. Okay, so Amir al-Mu'mineen says that it has a bit of the truth, a bit of falsehood. That's why it looks like the truth. We're not saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not made the truth available to everyone, the existence of the Creator, the religion of Islam, the path of AhlulBayt alayhi salam. No, He has. But Allah knows best. Allah chooses to guide whom He wishes. Allah chooses to present some people and not others with more of the evidence than others. Maybe that Allah has shown the truth so much to everyone that on the day of judgment, many people will be in a position that they have to present the excuse of why they have not followed the truth. Again, I'm not talking just about Muslims who are not following the school of Al-Bayt. I'm talking about those who do not believe in God, Islam, and the school of Ahlul-Bayt. I don't know. Maybe. And maybe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided in His wisdom to share this with some people and not with others. Maybe that's in His, that stems from His mercy. He doesn't want certain people to see it, because if they would have seen it, then maybe they would have rejected it. So we don't know. What we know, that the truth is clear for those who search for it, those who look for it sincerely, those who ask Allah for guidance, good people essentially. Some people inside them have certain qualities. They are humble towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to follow the truth. You know, their ego does not compete with any of that. They're ready to surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whose responsibility is it? Well, those who know have more responsibility. Those who know and they've already accepted Islam, for example, they're already following the school of Ahlul-Bayt, have more responsibility to share this truth. People who find out about it, but they haven't yet declared that this is the truth, clearly have responsibility. But people themselves have responsibilities. We do have in the Islamic heritage that those who know have greater responsibility. But again, the people that we assume may find out because they are scholars, they are experts, they are students of knowledge, they are studying, they're teaching, those are people themselves. And misconceptions do travel around. And you need people who are very sincere, who, when they're presented with that truth, they are systematic, they see the relevance, they know the applications, and therefore when they see the truth, they know it's the truth, and so they kind of hang on it, right? Now, I don't know how many people who teach Islamic studies from other schools of thought have seen this. I don't know how many people are only living with misconceptions. I don't know. We can only assume that they have not seen the truth. Everyone has a responsibility. All people have responsibility, but those who know more clearly have more responsibility. Social media, availability of knowledge, I'll be very honest with you, Kazim. Take the example of medicine. There's so much information about medicine, health, healthy lifestyles out there because of the internet, because of the accessibility of knowledge. Has it made people wiser about their lifestyle, their choices in life? Maybe certain certain bad habits, when you have a health campaign against them, you see a decrease in them, for example, smoking. But other aspects of life, I would say that just because information is available, that doesn't automatically lead to people becoming more healthier. So yes, there's more information about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's more information about Islam, there's more information about AhlulBayt alayhim salam. If you want to access it, you can get to it. But equally, there's information on, not the other side, from all other sides. So people may reach a position of lack of confidence in the information, right? And we've seen this. People say, well, everyone says that. Everyone quotes a verse from the Quran. Everyone quotes a hadith. Who says these are authentic? Every side presents his argument, and they sound confident. So the availability of knowledge, of information, doesn't automatically lead to wisdom at all, actually. In fact, you can argue it's the contrary. A friend of mine shared with me the analysis about misinformation, campaigns of misinformation. Essentially, you bombard society with so much information from so many different angles that people are basically lead them to the status of being a bit confused. They don't know which source to trust. They don't know if they can be committed or not. So you end up with people who are not very committed. They've heard about this information, but not in a systemic way, not in the right presentable way, right? They haven't spoken to people who know about this, the experts in the human factor, which is very important. Just because you can access a book on the screen, it doesn't mean that you will understand exactly what the writer wants to pass on to you. Okay, so accessing information without the human factor, without the experts, can be dangerous and can lead people to the status of being hesitant, non-committing individuals. So unfortunately, that's the other side of having access to information. I hope I've answered the question.
Sense actually went kind of beyond. I didn't think about, particularly when you mentioned about more information and the fact this can actually have a negative effect. Perhaps even you can apply this to atheism, for example, the fact that there's probably so much information, all the world religions, lectures, and from all different faith schools, yet atheism seems to be on the rise. I think that's indicative of, I guess, that particular issue. So definitely, thank you very much, Sayyid.
Ahsan, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Thank you very much to the Islamic Unity Society for holding this series of presentations. Today is the sixth and the final one. The second topic that we've been discussing for the last few meetings, during the last few meetings, is the concept of the inheritors, the guides. In the first three sessions, we discussed the rational argument, proving the existence of the Creator, His attributes, His justice, and life after death. And the last three, we embarked on the journey of finding out about the guides, the people whom Allah has chosen to lead mankind after the last messenger, the Prophet of Islam, to complete the God-centric paradigm, to help us to know the details about this paradigm, that indeed people who live by it, live under it, have a completely different perspective about life. Indeed, it is the truth and nothing but the truth. In today's session, I will begin with a very quick recap, and then we'll move on to the few verses left for our discussion. Hopefully by the end of it, brothers and sisters who've been watching this would have compiled a category of verses from the Quran to prove the existence of a special status. That this principle of the inheritors, the divinely chosen people, occupies a well-described position, status within the religion of Islam. It's not political. Politics is only one side of their authority. But indeed, they are the inheritors of the knowledge, and they have exclusive access to the knowledge of the Prophet. It should be the duty of every Muslim to search for them, to know who they are, and to follow them, so he or she can have a better understanding of their religion. The first verse that we started with was from Surah Fatir, speaks about the divinely chosen servants after the Prophet of three categories, those who've wronged themselves, those who are trying to be good, and those who have passed this level of trying to be good. They are foremost in all good deeds, purified in other sense. They were given the book, the religion, the knowledge within it as exclusive inheritance. And we spoke about the concept of the witness, and that the first witness comes from the Prophet, he's from the Prophet and will come after him. And then in our last meeting, we discussed this verse from Surah Al-Hajj, in which the Quran clearly describes a group of people, not only the first witness. Now we're talking about a group of people who are the bearers of witness, who bear witness as a group, shuhada ala nas, after the prophets. And clearly, according to this verse, this group of people who shall come after the Prophet, they have a relationship to the Prophet, that the Prophet is a witness over them, and they bear witness over mankind. They are descendants of Ibrahim. They are descendants of Ibrahim. Not all Muslims are descendants of Ibrahim. This is a specific group. In fact, it's a specific group that Ibrahim and his son Ismail prayed for as they were lifting the main structure, the foundations of Al-Kaaba, when they were rebuilding the house. The house dates back to the time of Adam alayhi salam, but during Ibrahim and his son Ismail, they completed the foundations and they erected Al-Kaaba. Huwa jtabakum. The verse clearly describes that Allah has chosen you. So there is that specific choice, divine choice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Fatir, the word was istafa. And here the word used is ijtaba. Very similar, if not exactly the same meaning. So far, from the verses of the Quran, and before we proceed any further, as dear brother Kazim said, if you have any questions about what we're going through, please stop me. So inshallah, we could maximize the benefit. So far, divinely chosen, foremost in good deeds, the inheritors of the book, i.e. they have exclusive knowledge. Otherwise, the word heritage or inheritance doesn't mean anything. The first witness who has exclusive knowledge comes from the Prophet, and now we've established they are the descendants of Ibrahim through Ismail. So now we're going to just go a step further, talking about the descendants of Ibrahim through Ismail. We're going to discuss this verse and the verse after, and inshallah that will be the final conclusion, the end of this category. And then I will just share with you some other verses that highlight other aspects of this notion, of this narrative. This is Surah Maryam, chapter 19, verse 58. أعوذ بالله من شر الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم. Prior to this verse, the Quran describes several prophets, and then this is the end of that passage. أولئك, these prophets. أولئك الذين أنعم الله عليهم. The important words are highlighted in red. In blue, it shows you the two groups of people that Allah has bestowed favors upon. So an'ama means has given ni'mah to, a specific ni'mah. Obviously Allah has bestowed ni'mah, favors on the whole of the existence, the whole of mankind. But it's important. It's important when it's relation to a particular group of people, and we'll soon find out. So, according to this verse, there are two categories that Allah has bestowed a special ni'mah, a special favor upon. The prophets and those that we have chosen and we have guided. من النبيين وممن هدينا واجتبينا, in blue. So these are the two categories. There are prophets and those who are not prophets. But according to this verse, they are chosen and guided. ممن هدينا واجتبينا. Hadaina is we've guided them, ijtabayna we've chosen them. So ijtaba is the same word that's used with the verse that we've just seen. Ibrahim, his descendants, a group that comes after the Prophet, huwa jtabakum. Allah has chosen you specifically to become witnesses of mankind after the Prophet of Islam. Here the same word is used again. Prophets and those that Allah has guided and has chosen. Who are they? From the prophets who are the descendants of Adam. Okay? And more specifically from Adam, those who Allah has carried with Nuh. And then a very important phrase is used. I would say for people who are encountering this for the first time, it's quite subtle. But once you see it, it's a reminder that these lessons, I attended them many years ago under the supervision of Sayyid Sami al-Badri. So these are the works of our scholars from Najaf. So once you see it, once you see how detailed the Quran is, that's it. That's it. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. It's trying to show you the elaboration of the meaning, right? وَمِن ذُرِّيَّةِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْرَائِيلَ. So Allah says, I have prophets that I have bestowed favors upon, and I have other people, not prophets, that I have chosen and I have guided. Who are they? They are descendants of Adam, descendants of Nuh. And the Quran makes a distinction between the descendants of Ibrahim and Israel. Now, the audience, I'm sure they know that Ibrahim had two sons, Ismail wa Ishaq. And after Ishaq, the main son was Yaqub. His other name is Israel, the children of Israel. And from Ishaq and his son Yaqub who's the grandson of Ibrahim, came all the prophets that we know about. Musa wa Isa wa Yusuf, salamullahi alayhim ajma'in. Okay, the prophets of Bani Israel. The Quran says, I have Dhurriyyat Ibrahim and I have Dhurriyyat Israel. Dhurriyyat Israel are exactly the same as Dhurriyyat Ishaq, because Ishaq is the father of Ibrahim, and then, Ishaq is the father of Yaqub. So Israel takes this whole lineage. So what are we left with when it comes to Dhurriyyat Ibrahim? The descendants of Ismail. What this verse helps us to achieve is a reminder that the descendants of Ibrahim, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has answered the call of Ibrahim, they came from Ismail and they became the Muslims, but a particular group of Muslims who've been chosen and guided by Allah. And they will come after the Prophet and they will serve as witnesses after the Prophet. A reminder that this word, this key word, Dhurriyyat Ibrahim or Al-Ibrahim, in the Quran, it refers to them. It refers to that line. Because all the other descendants of Ibrahim will come from Ishaq and Yaqub are mentioned in the other group of Bani Israel, the descendants of Israel. So whenever the descendants of Ibrahim are mentioned, we're reminded it's talking about this line, Ismail, and then the people will come after Ismail. I'm reminding the audience, we're adding this verse to what we already know. We're not starting from this verse. We know already, according to this verse, that there will be a group of chosen people, mujtabaun, after the Prophet of Islam. They will serve as witnesses. And the only way that they can serve this duty is that if they have exclusive knowledge and they've been purified. Okay, so we already know that. But this verse helps us with something else. It highlights that the Dhurriyyah of Ibrahim in the Quran, that's a key word, is referring to them. Because Israel, the descendants of Ibrahim from Israel are mentioned clearly with a different title, different label. Is everyone happy with this before I move on to the last verse, which is linked to the word An'ama Allahu alayhim? So from this verse, we're making two conclusions. Descendants of Ibrahim is referring to them in the Quran. And then the most powerful key of An'ama Allahu alayhim. And those who attended yesterday probably are guessing where I am heading next with the most important surah in the Quran, with the phrase An'amta alayhim. But let's just pause here before we move on to the final verse.
Sayyid, I just have a question from one of the attendees. It's regarding actually one of the previous verses which we discussed regarding the concept of a witness or witnesses. And the question is, what is the significance of the witness? Why can't it just be any witness? And why does the word witness imply that he has exclusive knowledge, or the AhlulBayt?
Okay. So we're adding several verses to reach this conclusion. Now, number one, in Arabic, let's start with the word witness. In court, when people are having disputes, why do you bring someone in particular as a witness? Why is it this person and no one else? It's either because this witness was there during the encounter that these people are disputing, or because he has exclusive knowledge, and you're trying to get him to share this exclusive knowledge with you. That's it. That's what a witness is. That's why they're called witnesses, right? Either because the witness was there, i.e. he has knowledge to what exactly took place, or he has exclusive knowledge about the topic even though he wasn't there. So we didn't come up with this principle. From Surah Fatir, the Quran declares that after the Prophet of Islam, there are chosen people who have exclusive knowledge of the book. Before we label them as the witnesses, we're now asking every Muslim on earth to go and look for them, search for them. Who are they? Which group after the Prophet claimed that they have exclusive knowledge? Because according to Surah Fatir, that's exactly what happened. After the book was revealed to you, we have given the book as inheritance, something exclusive to a certain group of people. And now from the verse that I've just shared, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, this is addressing the witnesses, right? Towards the end it says that you may serve as witnesses over mankind after the Prophet has been a witness over you. Descendants of Ibrahim, they're called witnesses, and they are chosen by Allah. So in the religion of Islam, we know that prophets and messengers are chosen by Allah as a category. It's a category in religion. Okay, we know that certain people are prophets and certain people are prophets and messengers. Now we're adding to our knowledge a third category, the inheritors. The question to any Muslim is, who are they? Are you following a group of people who've been chosen and purified by Allah, who has exclusive knowledge, who are descendants of Ibrahim? And was it Surah Al-Ra'd? Sorry, I need to go back to the previous presentation. I didn't include that slide. وَيَتْلُوهُ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْهُ.
Yes, Surah 11, verse 17, I believe.
Ahsantum. So again, we didn't come up with this concept. It's there. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ عَلَى بَيِّنَةٍ مِّن رَبِّهِ, the one who has a clear proof from his Lord, and a witness comes after him, and before him there's the book of Musa. And then the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns the people not to believe in him, not to believe in this truth. Who is this man? It's the Prophet. Okay, and a witness comes after him. I've just seen a comment. Sorry, I don't pay attention to all the comments, but I think I've seen a comment saying that the point has been clarified. طيب. So from this verse, from Surah Maryam, verse 58, we know that Allah has bestowed an'ama ala the prophets and another group of people. With the prophets, we know them as the descendants of Adam, the descendants of Nuh, and the descendants of Ibrahim through Ismail, and the descendants of Ibrahim through Israel. But the key word here is Dhurriyat Ibrahim, and we've already seen that, you know, they are the da'wah of Ibrahim. Ibrahim asked for them. Ismail asked for them.
Sorry, Sayyid, there's just been a question, just literally in regards to what you were just mentioning. So with your permission, I'll ask.
Of course.
Allah. Thank you, Jazakallah. So the question is, what is the significance of Prophet Ibrahim in the Quran when it mentions him and his descendants, or the sons of Ibrahim, rather than the family of Prophet Muhammad or etc., other prophets, for example?
Thank you very much. It's very important. Now, brothers and sisters, we are followers of this religion, okay? So we've opened our eyes, and this is the book. Now, clearly, I can share with you what I think is the wisdom of why Allah has chosen to label certain people with the descendants of Ibrahim rather than mentioning them by names. I could share with you the wisdom, but I don't want to start with that. I want to start with the text itself. Otherwise, I could take a step back and say, okay, go ahead, you explain to me. Starting from position of, oh, I know this is talking about AhlulBayt alayhim salam. I know it's about AhlulBayt. Go ahead, brother, Bismillah. Show me that who are these people? We're not doing that. We're not starting from a position of knowing this is talking about AhlulBayt alayhim salam. We're starting from the text itself. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, has chosen to label the family of the Prophet and the Prophet himself in the Quran as Dhurriyyat Ibrahim. Dhurriyyat Ibrahim. Here is. Afwan. I think I moved to the presentation. I need to go back to the pictures. Afwan, if you forgive me. Try and go back. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Sorry, cousin. Is my presentation clear or not really? Shall I go?
It's like as it was yesterday, so it's a little bit smaller.
Okay.
Yeah.
No
so
problem.
you just do the same thing you did yesterday. That all, inshallah.
Yes. Sorry, just give me a few seconds.
Sure, so take your time, inshallah.
Is that better?
Yeah, the presentation is fine now. Yes, and we can see you. Perfect.
Sorry. So, where did we stop? I think I got disconnected.
That's okay. It was just
if I may just rewind a bit. So we're starting from the text itself. The text speaks of a exclusivity of knowledge. Now, why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did He decide to label AhlulBayt, as we know who is referring to now? Because they are the only group of people who have claimed that they have exclusive knowledge. They are the descendants of Ibrahim. They have been purified. This is their right. This is a position, a status determined by Allah. They are the only group who did that. We know this is referring to them. But why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not speak about them so clearly? Maybe because Allah wants to protect the Quran. That's one answer. If I have understood the question correctly, why hasn't the Quran been more explicit? Well, for your information, there are historical accounts to say that copies of the Quran that had the text of the Quran, the verses, and on the side, the elaboration, the tafsir, the explanation, these texts, because they were so explicit, they were burnt quite early on in the history of Islam. We've seen how certain politicians like Muawiyah and Yazid, we've seen how they dealt with AhlulBayt. We've seen how the Umayyad and the Abbasid kings, rulers, have dealt with AhlulBayt alayhim salam. Their cruelty, lack of mercy, their aggression, their takabbur, right? We've seen it. Maybe if the Quran was so explicit, as was Al-Imam Musa al-Kadhim, as was Al-Imam al-Rida, as was Al-Imam Ali al-Hadi, maybe if the Quran was so explicit in his meanings when it comes to, this matter of who has the religious authority, maybe they would have dealt with it with the same cruelty that they expressed towards the descendants of the Prophet, the descendants of Ibrahim, maybe. But because the terms may not be so obvious for those who lack knowledge, who lack insight, like most of those politicians and kings who ruled the Muslim Ummah, because they lack the knowledge, they lack the insight, they didn't see it as dangerous, right? It's not dangerous for this text to survive as it is, okay? I know that people are saying, well, Allah has taken it, on himself to protect the Quran, of course. But we have in Islam the principle that if Allah can achieve his aims without a miracle, Allah will do it. If Allah needs to intervene in a miraculous way, he will do it, but only after, exhausting all natural ways of achieving his aims. For example, protecting the life of the Prophet. How many times the Prophet's life was in danger? So many times. How did Allah protect him? Well, with the sincere companions and with Ali ibn Abi Talib. But it was that one time, that night that he left Mecca to Medina, there was no way of protecting him. They were surrounding his house, he was outnumbered. So a miracle happened, he left the house and they couldn't see him. So miracles happen when Allah can't achieve his aim through the natural ways. So this is a natural way of protecting the Quran. I hope I've addressed the point that the question was trying to make. طيب. Moving on from Surah Maryam, using this key word. We've used inshallah, we've studied some keywords here. Inheritance, Mustafaun, Mujtabaun, chosen. Witnesses, the first witness. Okay, Dhurriyat Ibrahim, it refers to the descendants of Ismail, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi, and the people of his household. And this is another key word, الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ. This takes us to Surah Al-Fatiha. In Surah Al-Fatiha, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us to recite this dua, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, guide us to the straight path. And then clearly it labels the path after a certain group of people. Indeed, it is the path of Allah. Of course it is. It is the path of Allah. But Allah wants us to reach him by being sincere followers of the prophets, of the messengers, of the last prophet, and of those who were not prophets, but were guided and chosen by Allah. So it labels as-Sirat al-Mustaqim as the path of that group of people. And the key description of that group of people is that Allahu an'ama alayhim. Allah has bestowed favors upon them, and no one else. Who did Allah bestow favors upon? Prophets. Of course he did. So we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us followers of all prophets, including the Prophet of Islam, but also including, according to verse 58 from Surah Maryam, we want to follow the straight path of the chosen ones, divinely chosen ones that you have guided, my Lord. The witnesses, those who are the descendants of Ibrahim, Al-Ibrahim. So when we have narrations referring to this particular verse in Surah Al-Fatiha from AhlulBayt, that they say, we are the people, we are As-Sirat al-Mustaqim, we are the people that Allah has an'ama alayhim, we're not surprised. We shouldn't be surprised. We believe AhlulBayt, of course we do. But the Quran, to complement the hadith, the Quran clearly speaks for itself. It's there. The group that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala an'ama alayhim. And with this verse, we will stop. And I will just very, very briefly share with you other verses that complement this understanding, this final conclusion, that the straight path is the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, labeled after a certain group of people, the descendants of Ibrahim through Ismail, divinely chosen and guided, foremost in all good deeds, purified, inheritors of the book. They are the witnesses, and the first amongst them is from the Prophet and came after the Prophet straight away. This is complemented by other verses, brothers and sisters. In Surah Al-An'am, Allah says to those who reject the truth that we have given the book and the wisdom and the prophethood to our chosen, the prophets. This is the nubuwwah. So if you, mankind, you disbelieve in this, you reject it, then we have entrusted a group of people. We've entrusted a group of people with this path. So the idea that Allah has entrusted a particular group of people after the Prophet of Islam to take care of this religion, to maintain the divine guidance, is there. It's stated elsewhere in the Quran. Also, to complement that, not to digress, but you can easily make a conclusion from the second verse that when Ibrahim and Ismail are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make an ummah, a nation, a group of people who are submissive Muslims for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it says, raise amongst them a messenger of themselves. This is a key to know that all the fathers and the forefathers of the Prophet of Islam were purified. Because the verse states that raise amongst them a messenger, amongst them. So they already exist. A chain that, is continuous from Ismail all the way to the prophets. So they've always existed as purified individuals. But the witnesses came after the prophet. And finally, this is another verse in Surah Al-Nisa. Sorry, the numbers are not displayed. This is Surah Al-Nisa. أم يحسدون الناس على ما آتاهم الله من فضله فقد آتينا آل إبراهيم الكتاب والحكمة وآتيناهم ملكا عظيما. This speaks about a great fadl, great grace. Do they envy the people of Ibrahim, the family of Ibrahim, the descendants of Ibrahim? Do they envy them? Because Allah has given them a great fadl, great grace. They were given the book and the wisdom. Notice here, it doesn't speak about prophethood. It says the book and the wisdom, not prophethood, right? So those who believe in this fadl will be rewarded. Those who believe in this grace. So those who reject it, كَفَى بِجَهَنَّمَ سَعِيرًا. So, the people of Ibrahim, the descendants of Ibrahim, who have a great grace, not from Israel, right? Not from Ishaq and Yaqub, from Ismail now. This theme is frequently mentioned in the Quran. We finish with our conclusion that we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to the straight path, as-sirat al-mustaqim, the path of those that you have bestowed great favors upon. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala support us with humility, with sincerity, with the courage to apply and to implement what we know, and to protect us from the evil of ourselves, and to maintain his cover, his great cover, his sitar upon us, our deficiencies and our sins. I'll stop here and I will ask for your forgiveness, and I will pray that the few hours that we've spent discussing these two topics have been beneficial. And I thank you for listening, and I thank the Islamic Society for their continuous service that they have maintained over the last few decades, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala support them to continue to do so. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin.
Say thank you very, very much. Especially the last few verses, particularly Surah Al-Fatiha, was extremely inspiring. I hadn't actually come across that particular tafsir or interpretation of the final verse, I believe it was, of Surah Al-Fatiha. So thank you very, very much for, and actually looking at it, it's actually very, very clear. If you kind of put all the pieces together of all the different verses, you know, those upon, for example, Allah has bestowed his favors, you look at the other verses and you complement it with Surah Al-Fatiha, then it becomes abundantly clear. So thank you very, very much for that. We do have a few minutes, I think, remaining. So if anyone does have any final questions, with Sayyid's permission, you can feel free to unmute your mic, or raise your hand to unmute your mic, or you can put them in the Q&A function if you would like. And just while anyone else is kind of thinking of any other questions, I just wanted to ask just a further question, if I may say it, that you mentioned the point about that the Quran with the explicit tafsir, there was an issue with that. It was sort of, there was like a clamp down or a crackdown on those kinds of Qurans from like the political leaders of the time. Could that possibly explain, and I apologize if you've touched on this, but could that explain why, for example, the name of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib isn't explicitly mentioned in the Quran, where, you know, the verse of Ruku', for example, is there a particular reason? I know, again, we don't know why Allah has written the Quran always as he has for not including the name, so I obviously acknowledge that totally, but from your knowledge, if you didn't tackle it before, if you could perhaps expand on that, that would be much appreciated, inshallah.
No, ahsantum, Brother Kazim. I will take this opportunity to remind the whole of the Muslim Ummah that we are living in exceptional times. This is not how, this is not the norm. This is not how Muslims should live, only with the Quran and with a gap of 1,200 years between them and the Prophet. It was not meant to be like this. So you find this idea that if something's not mentioned in the Quran so explicitly, then it's not very important, like the exact description of hijab, or like the exact description of salah, or some other very important principles within Islam. If it's not mentioned in the Quran, then maybe it's not so important. No, it's meant to be the divinely chosen guide and the people. This is how it's meant to be. So the Prophet of Islam, he delivered the Quran through his blessed words. He told the people that's what Allah said in his Quran, right? But these words came out of the blessed mouth of the Prophet. He told the people, this is the Quran. They haven't seen the Quran. It was his words, and he told them, this is what Allah wants you to know. And it was also his blessed words that he explained so many things. And he gave explicit information and instructions about the salah, about the hijab, about how exactly you perform hajj, and about Ali ibn Abi Talib being the authority after me. Okay? So, and then it was meant to be after the Prophet, Imam Ali. Imam Ali will tell you what the Quran is and what Allah wants you to know from the Quran, just like the Prophet did. Because Imam Ali is the gate of the city of the knowledge. Imam Ali is the first inheritor. Imam Ali is the first witness. But now, unfortunately, we're living in exceptional times in which we don't have access to the final inheritor, to the last witness. We don't have access to him. So we're checking, the honorable heritage. This is not to undermine the heritage of hadith. I'll just explain to you. In fact, this is an opportunity I will take to remind you of the pivotal role that our scholars are undertaking when they examine the literature, the heritage, the hadith, and they work through them to find the authentic narrations, to find the correct meanings. Because these are exceptional times. These are worrying times. So, thank you, Kazim, for the question, and I'll take it as an opportunity to remind ourselves that these are exceptional circumstances. What we know about Islam today is true, but it's not the whole of Islam. Islam does and will have much more to teach the world, because the final inheritor, the final witness, has that exclusive knowledge. Okay? So, but no doubt, a clear benefit in hiding the names of the Imams from the main text. Now we know this has indeed provided protection to the Quran from politicians at the time, clearly. Otherwise, they would have treated the Quran exactly the same way they treated AhlulBayt alayhi salam. But alhamdulillah, the key words are there, one verse leading to the other. You can use it and you can reach the truth.
Sensei, that was very, very beautifully put and definitely clarified that kind of question that I've had, and members like my mum, for example, has often asked this question. So very, very well explained as always. Jazakallah, thank you. So there is one more question from one of the attendees. I believe this is like more of a looking at sort of as more of a recap of what you discussed regarding the ayah from Surah Fatir. But it's, why does exclusive knowledge imply that they are an inheritor, or that they have to be an inheritor? So I would think that it's, the question is asking, can't you just have exclusive knowledge as such? It could be any sort of type of knowledge. Can you be an inheritor without having this exclusive knowledge, etc.?
We are followers of the text. The text speaks of people after the Prophet being of three categories. Clearly, only one of them deserved to be chosen, Mustafaun by Allah. And we can't undermine these terms. Chosen by Allah. Allah chose his prophets and messengers. And this is another group that he has used exactly the same word. I have chosen them. I have chosen them. Okay, so there must be something special about them. They must have something special, something unique, something exclusive. They can't be just good Muslims. And we've learned that all the witnesses, they can only be descendants of Ibrahim. So what are the other good Muslims who are not descendants of Ibrahim? Through Ismail. No, the words carry their weight with them. You know, let's not just treat the Quran. Let's not treat the Quran without depth into the weight of the words. When Allah says, "I have chosen someone," then with a particular duty, now Allah could have chosen you to fulfill a certain duty. Okay, that's of course in Allah's wisdom. He has chosen you to be the father of this son or this daughter. That's also a choice from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But to inherit the book, to inherit the religion, that's a lot of weight. So we can't undermine the weight of the word. Mustafaun or Mujtabaun in the other verse that talks about the descendants of Ibrahim. Let's not undermine them. Let's be very specific and very careful when we read the text. Very careful.
Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina. It's Muntadar here. I have a comment and a question at the same time, if that's okay. So I'd like to thank you again for your amazing, very eye-opening talks. And it has, like, speaking for me, it's cleared up so many ayat for me, myself. So after going through all your talks, I can see that there is a very clear explanation when one dissects it just as well as you did. But the question that I have is, why do speakers that I have seen anyway, and forgive me if this is probably my ignorance or my shortcomings, but they seem to focus, when they think about the AhlulBayt in the Quran, they seem to focus on Ayat al-Tathir, or where it mentions those that believe that gave alms while praying. And they're only really the two ayat that I tend to hear when it comes to the AhlulBayt in the Quran. So I'd really like to thank you for taking the time to talk to us more about the AhlulBayt and the Quran. Of course, the AhlulBayt is something very central to us. And I think that this was an amazingly and very well put, very important topic.
Hayakallah, my dear Abu Muntadar, thank you very much. Credit to the Islamic Unity Society for holding this series of discussions. Now, the other verses that other speakers refer to are amazing evidence for the status of AhlulBayt Salamullahi alayhim in accordance with the comprehensive understanding of the religion, that you need the ma'soom, the divinely chosen individual, with the holy text, and you get the whole meaning. You know who are the people of Wilaya, you know who are the people who were under the Al-Kisa, you know who are the people who أطعموا الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا, and so on. So these are amazing verses, and with the comprehensive methodology, you will get to the conclusion. And these verses have guided millions of people over many centuries. These particular verses that I've shared with you will complement that, inshallah. It will complement it. It will add to the clarity that you all have about AhlulBayt alayhim salam. It will add to 1,200 years of amazing work by our scholars. Credit to the teachers. I've mentioned Sayyid Sam al-Badri. Credit to the Hawza that he studied in, Hawza al-Ilmiya, Najaf al-Ashraf, Qumma al-Muqaddasa. So it's a reminder that we should maintain that link, that channel of communication with our ulama. There will always be new research from Najaf and Qom. With all due respect, to my sincere brothers and sisters who are doing research in academic institutions here. Religion, Islam, is not an academic topic. Okay, so when you use academic tools, you will not reach the correct conclusion. Religions are the texts, the Islamic heritage has theology behind it. Like the first 3 sessions that we spent talking about the existence of Allah and His attributes. You need that theological background to study the text. Otherwise, if you come from an academic point of view and just look at the text, that's some books are 1,000 years old, 400 years old, you will not reach the true conclusion. So there will always be new research. There will always be elaborations, guidance from Al-Kitab al-Sunnah. So it's an encouragement for us to maintain that channel of communication. And inshallah, it's a reminder for us as a community, as a Muslim community, whatever we are in the United Kingdom or beyond, to support our speakers and to support our brothers and sisters who are students of knowledge. We're trying to maintain that balance between living here, taking some time out, going back to Najaf and Qom, studying, establishing that channel of communication, coming back here, serving as the link. These people, they've shown so much dedication that they deserve our support. They deserve our support. All forms of support. Moral support, social support, giving them platforms, and financial support as well. I will not shy away from talking about this. Financial support as well, so they can continue their great work. Thank you for the question, Muntaha.
Hassan said, I think that's a beautiful way to round off what's been a very, very hugely productive and a very, very enlightening and insightful series. And just again, echoing what Brother Muntaha mentioned, again, I've personally learned a great deal, as I'm sure everyone that has attended these last 3 weekends have benefited. So thank you very, very much. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses you and your family, and He gives you the tawfiq to continue to serve the community in this wonderful, wonderful way. And alhamdulillah, IUS, we're lucky and Allah has put us in a privileged position, alhamdulillah, to be able to deliver these series. But it's really you, the speakers, the scholars, the experts that really allow these particular events to come into fruition. So thank you very, very much. Just as a reminder to everyone that all of Sayyid's previous talks and presentations are available on our YouTube channel, IUS National. So if you do wish at any point to go back, if you missed anything and you want to go back and fill in the gaps, then please, by all means, go ahead and do so. And again, just a reminder that next Sunday, IUS will be starting a series, alhamdulillah, and after following up from these number of series that we've had over the past couple of months, the series will be on racism, and inshallah that will be taking place over the course of 4 Sundays. Please do visit our social media platforms or our websites for further details and details of how to register for the series. And once again, a very, very thank you to Sayyid Hassan Al-Sadr for joining us over the past 3 weekends, for giving up